This episode is brought to you today by Trikel Art Supplies.
Hell yeah.
And so I just picked up a bunch of stuff from them. That's right. That's how I felt when I opened my box of Trikel Art Supplies.
That's just your opinion, man.
Yeah, I got my haul of art supplies from winning the pet portrait competition.
Hell yeah.
So. Yeah. So, yeah, I picked up, let's see, I got a bunch of really good brushes.
Nice.
Got some, a bunch of brushes for my gouache and my oil paints.
Mm-hmm.
I got a crap load of gambling paints as well.
Yeah, let's be honest. If you're tired of using brushes like those cum brushes that just break apart,
right,
and you're trying to look for something that lasts a long time, Trekel.
Absolutely. So, yeah, if you want to help us out, also use the code WTD10 when you check out.
Yeah.
And that will take 10.
Major key alert.
What?
That was supposed to be a DJ Khaled soundbite.
Oh, okay.
Major key alert. That's my DJ Khaled.
Yeah. WTD10 at checkout for 10% off of your brushes, panels, canvases, any sort of shirts or mugs or anything like that you'd like to pick up as well.
Hell yeah. Get it in there, folks. We did a 2-month sponsorship with them, and then we're going to take a hiatus. So if you want to get that in before that discount kicks in, you better go now.
Yep. Don't delay.
Yeah. Do. I don't know what that was. I was just trying to add some melodic stuff to
Close Encounters thing.
Sure. That's what it was.
Right. Got you.
I wanted to do wind chimes, but I was like, I can't do wind chimes. So go do it. And back to our regular programming. When you're an artist, you'll have like brands reach out to you that, maybe coming up or whatever. And they're like, hey, we'd love to send you some stuff so you can try out and, and hopefully you like it. I'm like, sure, free art shit. Yeah,
right.
I'll take it always without any like strings attached. And then, but they're like, cool, we're cum brush.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Waiting to Dry, one of the least professional art podcasts.
Yeah.
It might sound nice, but sometimes we got to go through hell to get it there.
DJ, kick that shit. Hell yeah. You got to stay woke.
All right. I am Sergio Lopez.
I'm Josh Lawyer.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about what happened
and this
before?
Is Waiting to Dry. Talking about what?
What happened before our last recording?
Oh, the ridiculousness that is our fuck up.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't mind talking about it.
Yeah, so what happened was that before I went up to Oregon a few weeks ago, I brought some of the gear that we have for our podcast.
Well, you did one last year, the one where you're kind of like in the beach house with your friends and you talked, and so you were trying to kind of do another one similar to that one. Right, exactly. Again, but it didn't happen, but that's why you had the equipment.
Right, exactly. So some of the stuff was in the bag that I forgot to load up when I came over to your house because we were going to go out to Oakland to record with Jet Martinez. And so we were like, oh, we'll just swing by my studio to grab the stuff. And neither of us remembered to do that.
Yeah. So we had 2 stops. We had to get gas, and then we had to go pick up the bag. So we got gas, and then we're like, all right, let's get on that road and head to Jet's.
Because that's our usual routine, is just heading out from the gas station to the
Right. And we usually don't. City. We usually load up, hop in the car, gas up, take off. Right. So this time when we loaded up, we have 2 bags that fits all of our equipment. We have like a luggage bag and then this like duffel bag. And the duffel bag wasn't there, and we were like, oh shit, we forgot that. And then we were like, oh yeah, you have it, so let's go grab that. And then we drove, I don't know what it was, maybe an hour and maybe close to a half.
Yeah, about that.
To Jets, and then literally right when we parked, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
The headphones.
Neither of us remember the whole time even. It was the last thing on my mind for whatever reason.
Yeah, we're just driving and talking. And it was fucking, it sucked because not only that's where we keep our headphones, but this specific time, because you took it to Oregon, we were like, oh, you might need these wires and you might need fucking the headphone adapter thing and all this shit. So we end up realizing that we need a shitload of our equipment to do the podcast.
Yeah.
And then so we go to Guitar Center and we buy a bunch of shit.
Yeah, we didn't have cords for the mics either.
Yeah.
So we had to,
So we had to buy mic cords, the headphone like connector thing, which we ended up buying the wrong thing.
Right.
So that was shit.
Yeah.
And then
we had to go get some headphones. Yeah.
And then we didn't even.
We scrounged the last ones at Target that like halfway were.
Yeah, we're 20, and then ended up not fucking working. So last episode we had no headphones. So
yeah, so that's why there was no soundboard either.
Yeah.
And then right. So we're making it up way more.
Who is that?
I'll tell you about that later. It's a really terrible podcast that had a really cringy moment on it.
Oh, goddamn. All right. Is it an art podcast?
Yes.
Okay. It sounds like one.
Yeah.
God damn it. I don't know what it is, but every fucking artist that wants to start a podcast is the worst at fucking delivering a joke. And then, I don't know. Except for... on a side note, John once started a fucking podcast, which I'm super stoked about.
Yeah.
I mean, we've mentioned it before, but that was a big reason of why I wanted to start a podcast.
Exactly, yeah.
Around the fact that I thought he should start one. So it's cool to see him do, and I'm excited to see where that shit goes.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept too. An American in Europe just interviewing European artists. You don't hear that too much.
He's about to Anthony Bourdain that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there's so many bad art podcasts where they try to sound funny and it's like, maybe don't try that.
Right.
Maybe leave the jokes to funny people.
Try not to insert myself into that, but their opinions, everyone's got them.
There's this. What it reminds me of is at my job, there's always fucking people saying horrible jokes and people laughing at them. Do you know what I mean? Like they go like, "Oh, another day and like another penny," and then,
right?
and you're like, that shit's not funny.
Yeah.
And I hate you, and I hate this place, and I'm gonna burn it all down. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's in your head, yeah, for sure.
Now you know who started the fire a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we ended up buying headphones. That shit didn't work. We realized right when we got everything hooked up that we didn't have a fucking SD card.
Right, that too, to make matters worse. Yeah. And that one was all pretty much on me with that one.
And Jet's like, I think I got one.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, I just use my phone to take pictures like everyone else does in this world.
Right.
So he had like a 4 gig.
Yeah.
Which is like, God damn, that must be old because
right.
Shit's so, you can buy one of those things for like, that was like 125 gigabytes on it. 4 gigabyte just seems like a waste of plastic.
It really does. Yeah. It's like dollar store version of SD card at this point.
So it was crazy to see, but yeah, we worked it out. We got it in.
Yep. So you guys got to listen to it despite all of our fuck ups. So
it's fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
Yeah, and it sounded good.
Yeah,
that was one of the bigger worries was like because we can't hear ourselves talk that well, you can't kind of predict that well how the audio is going to sound because guests sometimes pull away not knowing because they're just not used to it, but.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, anybody out there trying to start a podcast, look up Maximizer.
Go Google that shit.
It really helps with leveling out the volumes of your guests and everything. Because, yeah, Jem Martinez was a little bit off the mic a lot, so I had to just crank him up a bit. So it worked out.
Nice.
So, yeah, those are the lengths we go to deliver you some hot shit.
Hell yeah. Drop that ill shit.
Hot shit!
That song just makes me want to dance. God, whatever happened to Nelly?
That's a good question. He really did just fall off after, I don't know, 2012,
he's
maybe
super
less.
rich? He's got to be super rich, right?
I would think so.
He took his money and just left and was like, I'm done here.
Yeah. I
Not
guess.
that I'm a fan. I actually didn't like his music at all, but
Right.
it wasn't my cup of tea. I'm fine with it.
Right. Made some solid investments, hopefully.
Yeah, so we're back. Solo fucking episode.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. So much to talk about. So much has been done.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been over a month, right? Probably like 2 months now, maybe?
I think it's been like probably, yeah, it's definitely been over a month. I think our last one was like 4 episodes ago. So that's like in these days, like 2 months ago.
Right. Yeah. we got shit to say.
Yeah, we ran into each other last weekend, not even planning to.
Literally.
Yeah.
We just ran it because we were looking down at our phones.
Right, exactly.
And we ran into each other. I was like, I'm fucking walking here, man. And then I was like, oh, sorry. And I was like, Sergio? You were the one saying I'm fucking walking here in that story, by the way.
Right.
It's the
'Cause
joke.
I'm the aggressive one.
Yeah. Did anyone ever hear that ad that we did?
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious. Like, did anyone catch that shit?
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend Vanessa was like, that was so weird. I couldn't tell if it was real or not at first. It's like, this does not sound like the Sergio I know.
If you guys haven't heard it, I don't know. Was it the Nate episode?
Yeah. I put it at the end of the Jet episode as well. Yeah.
There's an ad we did at the end. If you guys didn't hear it yet, you should go and listen back to that.
Bonus content.
But yeah. What else?
Yeah.
You have the landscape show.
Yeah. And that's been doing really well for me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So far, sold 6 of the paintings I took there. And
I'm going to turn this fan off. It's
Okay.
like squeaking.
welcome back to my football podcast, Packers and Raiders. Who you got?
That's a great question, John.
John. Yeah.
Everyone knows that the offense of the thing here. What are they running? A 3x5 or a 7x10? Or see the free safety over there? He's crucial to the play. If he doesn't make that tackle, goddamn. But yeah, you did some landscape work for, what's the gallery's name again?
Christopher Queen Gallery.
Christopher Queen.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And not to be confused with Christopher King, which is one step higher of a gallery, some say. Because...
Only poker players. You know?
Yeah. True. But yeah, you did, how many pieces did you do for that?
I did 8 total for it, and sold 4 specifically for that show, and then
Nice.
I've sold 6 in total. So
Nice.
it's a good payday for me.
Hell yeah, beers are on Sergio tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good percentage of painting sold.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Usually the fall shows do well for me there.
Mm-hmm.
Not every year. So, yeah, it's always just never that predictable.
Right.
But yeah, so far it's been going well for the work that I've been sending to the gallery this year. So happy about that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So you have any shows of your figurative stuff coming up at all?
Yeah, actually I do have a couple of shows that group shows I'm doing pieces of work for. got one for Modern Eden and then one for Spoke Art. So working on that. But you got a ton of things going on too, right?
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just have 2 more pieces to knock out before I can kind of take a bit of a breath and then start chugging away at some bigger shows, which has been cool. It's been stressful a little bit, but it's kind of nice to get back into the paint grind.
Mm-hmm.
I seem like I always go in like big waves of paint or draw. So
Right.
And I've kind of been in the mindset of maybe trying to take more of my get more of the habit of painting kind of in my daily routine rather than the drawing thing.
Yeah. It's easy to fall off of that.
Yeah. And it kind of seems like it always takes a bit of like a snowball effect. Like it really kind of takes the time to chug along and until you're like really running.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to kind of get out of that mode. So I'm kind of trying to figure out a way to paint daily and making that more of an emphasis of that being a really big habit of mine.
So that's going to be on top of what you already do at work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only hard part because when you get home, it's like there's all this other shit that you got to deal with before you even get to the easel.
Yeah, but even I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out, figuring out how to make it. Cause one of the things I realized when I kind of started this like draw every day thing at work was that by setting up kind of like having a setup that's easy to like just get me in the mode to drawing sets me up to do it more often.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So trying to figure that out of how do I set my paint rig up or whatever to kind of be able to just even get in 30 minutes and then be okay with that. So I think I might make like a smaller palette so that I can throw that in the fridge. I made one for MJ and she's been using it a decent amount. And I think I might do the same thing just so I don't have to think like, oh, I'm going to waste this fucking paint. I got to like use this palette up before it dries out. So that might be one of the steps I take towards kind of doing a daily art paint thing.
Are you thinking you're doing it in oils?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about just getting like a little paint box, like one of those you could just open up like a suitcase kind of thing, have on your lap? Is that what you were thinking?
That too, maybe. Because I want to do it in my studio. I just want to like.
Oh, okay.
I don't plan on painting outside in the world. I just want to make sure that I get in like an hour a day, even. You know, it's like it's just that idea of kind of consistently painting and being in that habit. I just really want to focus on. I've been thinking about it for a bit now and trying to think of how to get in that. Which, I mean, accepting a shitload of shows forces me to kind of do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I could just constantly do that when I don't have shows lined up, then it seems like it would relieve that kind of stress that adding shows and being kind of stressed out from shows has. If you're just painting. I had this conversation with Leon like at Serge Gay show we went to at Voss Gallery.
Yeah.
And I was telling him because Leon just finished his show and he's kind of getting right. He's like starting to work on his first painting since the show he did at Minna. And he was like, yeah, I'm just getting back into it. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird how like when you, he's like, I was telling him when you're working on like a big solo show or a big show in general, that first piece always feels great. Do you know what I mean? Like when you work on the first
like
piece
as you're doing it
for a series, it feels great because there's no stress. You just kind of, I'm like trying to figure out the direction you're going to go for this show specifically. And then when you kind of knock out that first piece, you're like, that was fucking awesome. And then by the end, you're a fucking stressful wreck of a human being who's like, goddamn, I need to get this shit done. I need to like figure out like what needs to be done and what isn't done. Like what I need to pull back on because I don't have the time for these like things. I just am constantly trying to figure out how to dodge. And so I was, when I was talking with Leon, I was like, if you just kind of kept painting, because I think what ends up happening is after you finally finish that show, you're like burnt out and you're like, I need a break. And then you take a break until you have a fucking another show. And then you're like, oh shit, now I need to get back. And then you like put yourself in that kind of like mindset of pushing hard again.
Right.
Where if you just kind of always pursued that first painting feeling that like, let me just kind of see where I'm going here.
Right.
It would end up being something where you're like, I get to pursue these ideas more, get to explore more, get to kind of find out directions I want to go. Like the interesting and fun parts of creating work.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I wonder if that's why Henrik does those little, does all those really quick little face study things that he does. Because I know he works on like
Henrik?
large. Yeah.
Which one's that?
He's the one who does the paintings of faces. They're very brush strokey. He's the one who painted like the eyeball on an egg and drop it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it seems like he does those just as warm ups, right before he does his larger work. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been kind of doing that. Even as I was doing the work for the landscape show, I was doing the paint drip thing where I was just found a random sort of reference in my collection and tried to do a quick painting off of it.
For sure.
Yeah. And yeah, it's weird. I kind of, it's so quick. It's so easy to quickly fall off of that habit because I haven't really done one of those in a little bit now.
Right. Well, it's also the difference between drawing and painting. There's so much of a setup that goes into it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Takedown. So compared to like a pencil, you know, especially if you have a mechanical pencil, you got to do a couple of clicks with a thumb.
Yeah.
And you're ready to go. So trying to figure out how to quicken that process is something that seems important if you want to get in the habit of painting everything. Unless you don't give a fuck and you just waste a shitload of paint all the time.
Right.
Which I'm trying to break a habit of doing that as well. So.
Oh, do you feel like you do that?
It's not necessarily too much, but if I could minimize it, that'd probably be a benefit.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. But yeah.
I'm pretty good at not wasting a lot of paint, but that did take some time for me to figure out too.
Yeah. Hey, you've been doing the painting for a lot longer than me.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. So if I could just matrix that knowledge, that'd be great.
Right.
Our guest today is Garbage, by the way.
Oh, Garbage. That's our cat, or that's your cat.
Yeah. It's kind of sleeping and not talking much, so shit guest, if you ask me.
I know.
Get out. I mean it.
Fucking British accents. Am I right, British listeners?
Right.
But fuck, I had something else I wanted to bring up.
Well, I want to talk some more about that. The shows that we saw.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, because Serge Gay's show was really cool.
Yeah.
He did this. The series was just pretty much all focused on like Palm Springs, which I guess he's probably a frequent visitor of, I would imagine.
I assume so.
Yeah, but yeah, just the way he painted everything, I love that he kept it all like in a certain color palette.
Yeah,
and like
it was a unique color palette at that, like orange and green.
Yeah, it reminded me of 7-Up for some reason.
I could see that. Yeah, for sure. The bottle plus the yeah, that makes sense.
It was really cool. Like he had a lot of interesting compositions and interesting formats to the canvases that he was painting on too. So
yeah. He like, you could see where he enjoys playing around with like painting certain textures and things
for sure.
like that.
He likes shiny shit.
Yeah, shiny shit. And you can see you can see the pace he sets when you look at his work. Do you know what I mean? Like it's done well, and you can see that he did it quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Goddamn, you must have fucking just smashed. I mean, I've seen him paint on his Instagram, so I'm like, goddamn, I already know he paints extremely fast.
Oh, yeah.
But you can read it that way. He's some people when they paint fast, their style diminishes. He's a person that's able to like kind of be in that realm and still and it's a part of what he's doing.
Right. Yeah. You can tell that he draws well, so it's almost at that point just filling in the gaps that's left in the drawing.
Coloring book. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you guys went to Myra's Gallery after that. Which I didn't realize who was showing there, else I would have definitely gone.
I know. Yeah, we were talking about that on the drive up to Jets.
I was supposed to, and last minute I'm like, I'm just gonna stay back and get drunk.
Because you thought it was a different artist showing there. You're just like, not my thing. But then you realize it's like one of your favorite painters right now. Yeah, because I was like, we're going to go to Myra's Gallery, and then you were like, oh yeah, we're heading there too. So I just figured, you know what's happening there.
You're right. I didn't. What happened was, Max, I forget his last name. Max, he's a muralist. Sorry, Max, if you're listening. He was like, oh, I'm going to Myra's Gallery, and then Irene was like, oh, I'm going to Myra's Gallery, and I'm like, oh. And then you came in and you were like, oh yeah, we're going to go to another show. And I was like, Myra's Gallery, and you're like, yeah. And Irene already talked to me, and she was like, oh, we're going to Myra's Gallery. And we're like, all right, we'll go with you. And then when you were like, oh, we're going, I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to be a little group. And then, well, I got talked out of it by Booze.
Shout out you, Renee. Renee.
He got talked out of it by Booze, he said.
By Booze, yeah. Just like, I just kind of want to stay here. But yeah.
But yeah, it was an awesome show. Probably my favorite show this year. If you don't know who we're talking about, it's Jose Luis Cena, Cena, and he's a painter that I've been following for, I don't know, probably like a year or two now. And he does, I don't know what you say, like he paints like a lot of children or like family looking scenes or animals, and he kind of does like these sort of dreamy situations that they're in, where they're like houses that are all sorts of different colors. I'll just link on the
it's very style heavy.
Yeah.
And it seems like very narrative based.
It's very narrative based. Yeah.
And, which means it's good.
It's so good. Even I like it. It's narrative based. But yeah, there's a thing about the way he uses narrative that I really enjoy, where it's really hard to figure out exactly what the story is.
Right.
And so there's some clues that he gives in the titles. But
do you think that makes it good that he doesn't let you know what it's about?
For me personally,
yeah.
Like, for example, there's this one that my favorite painting of the show was this giant piece of, there's this woman holding a baby. It's in the dark, and there's a deer that's like sort of running in front of him. And I didn't read the title of it at the show. I don't know if they actually had titles on the walls for the pieces. So it was just really fun to try and figure out what was happening with it.
Right.
And then later on, I looked on the Myra's Gallery Instagram, and it gives the title of the piece. And I was like, oh, that's what's happening. It's like, part of me is satisfied to know the story of it, kind of, from it. But then a part of me feels like I miss out on the fun of figuring it out in my head.
Right. Yeah. I've been wondering about that part of narrative in general a decent amount recently. The element of surprise is kind of, I guess, the easiest way to sum it up. So something like, if you think about and M. Night Shyamalan being an addict of a surprise ending, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, and kind of, I think that is kind of an enjoyable thing as a human being, to kind of view something, and while they're viewing it, be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Something's happening. I just can't figure it out.
Right.
And then if it ends up clicking, I think it's this like great thing that people kind of get like a pat on the back or like a reward for maybe spending the time or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So kind of having a story have that ability to kind of not necessarily spoon feed you, but have all the answers there seems like a good way to kind of tackle narrative
Yeah.
in art. But maybe there's versions of narrative stuff that is kind of spoon fed that I might like as well. I'm drawing a blank right now, but I'm sure it's out there.
Well, Rockwell kind of like it's pretty over what the narrative is, but it's done in such a clever way most of the time. That,
I would agree with that. Also, like comic book art is kind of like that.
Yeah, that's true.
It has all these like built-in story arcs that are kind of like obvious,
right?
So it allows you to kind of, and maybe it's a thing too where it's like the more you're into reading art or in that kind of way,
sure,
the more like the overdone storylines are kind of like lame to you, but I can't see myself through like the 5-year-old art what you know what I mean, like the amateur or whatever. It's kind of like that mural we did where it seemed obvious, but then everyone's like, this is about spousal abuse. Like,
right.
Oh, you guys suck at this. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with like, it's just you guys are horrible at reading art because you guys are fucking amateurs at it.
Right.
Fucking amateurs. Do we have that soundbite?
Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
Oh, I thought you were, the Lebowski one where he's like the nihilist and he's like, you're fucking amateurs.
When the John Goodman character says that. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's the one I was trying to quote.
Oh, okay.
But
it's funny on my soundboard. This is
that's
next
just
to
like
it.
Your opinion, man.
Yeah, I knew we had that one. I was just like, oh, that would be cool if we had the John Goodman. He was a fucking beast. He's still kicking, right? Mm-hmm. All right.
Isn't he in a show right now? I think he is.
But
whatever.
But yeah. So awesome show.
Yeah, it was. A lot of things. It reminds me of what you were saying before. A lot of my interest in like getting me to even care about the story itself hinges on how good of a painting I think it is in the beginning. And so his stuff is so well done, like as far as what he's doing with paint application and like a lot of the, I don't know, I guess you could call it cleverness, but I don't know, there's just a lot of thought behind how he's painting the pictures themselves, and that's really fun to see, especially in person with the type of painting that he's doing, where he's doing all these crazy layering over almost these rainbow like colors, and like the way he's doing, like the way he's laying down paint in certain areas. Like we were talking about how he does this tree trunk, and it's just this really like thick, fat mess of color almost, and he just scratches in the texture of the paint or the texture of the bark into it. Right. It's just like stuff that maybe you could like figure out on your own, but seeing an example of it, it's like, oh, okay, like kind of clicks in your head. Right. So I guess for me as a painter, it's like there's a lot to look at for me there.
Right. What he does well is he takes a shitload of techniques and then he throws them in together and then they meld well. Right. Which is something that is tough to do.
It's so difficult. Yeah.
So when you see someone execute it well, you go like, fuck. You just like puzzle pieced some crazy shit together that is very impressive.
Right. Exactly.
In a way that all seems to add value to that piece, you know? So it's fucking cool. I haven't seen the show yet. I'm planning on seeing it at the drop off a piece for Palette Gallery within the next week. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to go there and stop off, or if not, the show's on Friday. So maybe I can catch, if Myris Gallery is open, I can maybe hopefully get in there and check it out before.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out.
Have to check into that first. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely worth a trip to the city alone, I think.
For sure.
But the show itself was kind of funny because like the after party was so weird.
Right.
So yeah, I got exactly. I got talked into going up into the VIP lounge of the the nightclub that's underneath the
nice. Were hips thrusting?
Were mine?
Or everyone's?
There was one person's hips that were thrusting. That was hilarious to see. He's an older gentleman. Hell yeah. But it was weird because at that point I'd already had a bunch of free drinks at the show.
Right.
So I kind of like the only reason I would be in here, I kind of already had that taken care of. So this is just this weird artificial lounge setting that nobody's really talking to each other here. Like, even if you wanted to, it's kind of impossible because the music's so loud in there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just I was so fish out of water in that
For sure.
in that setting. So
Yeah.
we got a couple of drinks, a couple of Red Bulls, and left.
Hell yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good night. I mean, just seeing that was two. I mean, I didn't see the second show, but I know it was a good show. So it's like being able to go and check out some good artwork is always a decent time, and then getting a buzz is also cool.
Yeah. Well, you did that too in your own way.
Yeah. Yeah, good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, go check that shit out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did want to talk about a piece I just did recently.
Oh, okay.
I did a piece for Stone Sparrow Gallery in New York. I shipped it out. It's the one. I only want to talk about it because it's one of those things where I built. We've talked about it before about dark humor and how kind of I've been trying to think about that more and like play around with it more. I've done it a little bit here and there.
Oh, is this the one with the girl who's sitting down with her fingers?
Yeah, walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the title is
Send Your Son to Die.
Yeah, Send Your Son to Die. Which is kind of an intense but it's supposed to be comedic in a dark way title. But I wish I had the piece. I sent it out. I wanted to talk to you about it, kind of like how we used to do things like that.
Yeah. The original idea of the show is just to bring in paintings to talk about. Yeah.
And so this one, I figured I kind of I've been really stoked on the execution of a narrative. And it was one of the times where I was like, oh, I would kind of enjoy talking about this piece because it's worth talking. Because I mean, I've done little like there's that image, there's that painting I did. I think you know it, where it's like the lady and it has like fading away, like written in her. Oh, and it's like supposed to be for like a Day of the Dead show that I did.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the piece again.
And there was like a little ghost underneath, and it's
that's
kinda,
right.
There's kind of like this like super dark narrative, but then like the little ghost are kind of like this weird comedic relief to a dark subject.
Yeah.
I always liked that. Was like one of the like times where I was like, that's kind of nice to be able to knock out like dark humor on a dark subject matter, while kind of not necessarily losing the intensity or like of what the piece is talking about. You know what I mean? So this piece kind of was one of those times where I was able to develop a storyline that I thought of in a way that I was pretty happy with how it was executed, using like a bunch of random tools to do so.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really interesting things happening in the painting. If people don't know, this is the one where you did the Jackson Pollock. Yeah.
I would love, do you have any like, before I like try to dive deep into it, do you have any like theory of what this piece is actually about at all?
I mean, very little. It's hard to tell. Like Send Your Son to Die is kind of, I don't know why it makes me think like the hand is a bit of a metaphor for that. Where it's almost like it's like almost a representation of her walking her child a little bit, like, but not literally that, but just a way of like.
They're pretty close, actually. There's like a little bit off, but it's so. So the show I was doing is called False Face for for Stone Sparrow Gallery, and I was like,
so when you heard that, like the gallery gave you that, not as a prompt, but just as a way, like, did you think of it that way though? Like, how can I incorporate false face into it?
Well, I instantly thought that everyone was literally going to put masks on faces and be like, done, next thing.
Okay.
And so I was like, the thing I definitely don't want to do is put a mask on someone's face.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so I had this image and I wanted to use it, that one specifically. And so I had these like two narratives I was thinking about. I was like, oh, maybe I should try to either like tackle this narrative or that narrative. I ended up like smashing them together in a weird, silly way. The two narratives being like a parent who lived out their dreams through their children.
Oh, okay.
And then the main actual narrative is supposed to be where she's a god and she's sending Jesus to die for her.
Oh, okay.
But I tried to tackle it in a very silly way. So, so the comedic part being that Jesus is this silly hand face thing. There's also like this painting I did in the background.
The one that you did, yeah.
And it's titled like a laughing heart. I can't remember if that's the exact title. But it's it's like the title of that Bukowski poem, which I built all that work around. And so that painting specifically was supposed to embody the person that poem was about. Like that's what that painting was about. Was like this painting. So the poem is about a person who's like who's trying to pursue a life like a life well lived.
Okay.
And at the end of the poem, it says the gods will delight in you.
Okay.
So I thought it would be funny to add that piece in there as almost like a teeny bopper poster.
Yeah.
Like, so I've done a painting where there's like a god bowing down before like a person.
Oh,
And I'm almost like re-tackling that thing, that like idea of like the gods will delight in you, but more as if like the god was like this girl who's like, oh my god, he's so cute. Like
I got you.
Like this like fan, like if God was a fan girl of someone.
Interesting.
Which I thought would be like a fun, silly thing. And then and then Jesus being the one so the title being like send your son to die is obviously, and so in the Bible there's this narrative of the Holy Trinity, which is like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they're technically supposed to be all the same person. Like it's this weird idea in the Bible of like there's these three people that are one person.
Right.
So using the hand, like it's not necessarily not her hand, but somehow, so it was like kind of trying to tackle the idea of the Trinity without actually make like almost, I don't know. It was this silly idea. And then the Pollock was just literally saying, what if God was in the shit art?
That's hilarious.
And then, and then I drew a little ghost on the back of the painting.
Oh, did you?
And then I wrote
okay.
Holy Ghost. That was my little, like, if you buy this painting, you'll find where the Holy Ghost is and maybe get a clue of what I'm talking about.
I see. Yeah, I wonder if people who, I guess, I don't know, religion is on their mind more, Christianity in particular, if they make that connection quicker than I would. Because when I think of that, I think of more like war. Like,
yeah, well, I got that as a feedback from someone who was like, is this about people sending their kids out to die? Which I kind of knew when I titled it that was going to be. That's why I made sure to write send your son to die, not send your sons to die.
Okay.
And I also thought like tackling the narrative of like a parent living their dreams through a kid was like a funny way of thinking about what God did with Jesus. Like,
okay,
it's like, I always wished I could have done this, but here you go. Like, go do this for me. Like, go be the person. I don't know. Go be my champion or some shit. I don't know.
Another part of me thought that it might be a little bit of like we were talking about before with Leon, like kill your ducklings kind of thing, where it's like, I don't know, there's something about, especially having like the paintings in there, having something to do with like, I don't know, like killing your darlings kind of thing. When you're painting, you kind of have to sometimes send your your painting to die in order to get to like the next phase of your art practice. I was wondering if it was something to do with that too.
I never think of art in my art for the most part. This is like probably one of the few paintings where I was like, let me use paintings as a narrative tool.
Right. Okay.
But they were both just to be like a comedic thing, while at the same time kind of being like a super, like the one in the back is just a super obscure reference. It's like if you can take the time to like learn that painting's name and then go read the Bukowski poem and then assume that the last line of the Bukowski poem is what I'm referencing for the main figure. It's kind of like this pathway you have to find to maybe figure out what I'm talking about, but it's technically there. Like it's, that clue is there if you can figure it out. It's just not necessarily something that you can figure out by just kind of being like, oh, there's a painting there. What is that? Why would there be a painting there?
Right.
It's much more of like a connect the dot, weird rabbit hole you would have to somehow get down. And even then,
somebody would have to be a mega fan of Joshua Lawyer to figure that one out.
I even like someone asked me on Instagram, like, I'm having trouble with the title, what does it mean? And I gave them that clue. I said, like, there's a painting in the back I did. It's based off a poem. The last line in that poem is a clue. And then they read it and they were like, still nothing. And I was like, all right, well, good luck. And then someone else guessed what you guessed, and I actually ended up telling that person.
Oh, really?
Because I appreciate someone that like attempts to understand it
for sure
much more than someone that's just like, nope, nothing. What else you got for me?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
All right, well then, I got nothing for you.
Did you get any people who were like that?
Who were like what?
Who just like, what does it mean? Like just straight up ask you.
Well, that's what that's what kind of that person seemed to imply.
Oh, the one that you're saying.
Like, I'm having trouble with this. What does that mean? And then it's like, well, I can't tell you what it means, but I can give you this clue. And then I gave them the clue, and then they were like, nothing still. All right, well, I mean, you have a title, you have an image, and you have a decent clue that tells you there's something about God's having delight in you. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's a fucking leap to get to the final image, but
for sure.
Still, I don't know. It's that whole like trying to figure out how to explain something without spoon feeding you. Seems to be a thing I'm trying to tackle myself. And if at the end of the day, then you're like, I don't get it, spoon feed me, I'm not going to be like, okay.
Right.
Well, because you asked for it. Here you go.
Exactly. Yeah. It'd like go against everything you're trying to do with it.
Yeah.
Going to do that. But yeah.
Because there's something in someone adding effort to something that's rewarding to that person. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And I don't care about the person. It's like someone trying to like go on a hike to reach the fucking tip of the mountain. It's like they get the reward of standing on top of the mountain because they did that shit.
Right.
So like, why the fuck would I helicopter you to the top of the mountain so you can be like, yay, look at this?
Right.
It's like, it's also part of that fucking effort that you put into the things and trying to like create an environment in your work that allows that seems way more, I don't know, magical or some shit. I don't know the fucking right word, but something much more special or rewarding in it that I think is worth pursuing rather than, I don't know, someone drawing Trump with a little dick.
Right. Yeah.
That's more of a pat on your back art.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So
well, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's that piece.
Awesome.
And it's all white background because they wanted to make it feel heavenly. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It's weird because when I explain it, in some ways it feels like, because every time I did anything, I did it and I would like giggle while doing it and think it was hilarious. But then when you say it, sometimes it's like, that sounds too serious. But in a weird way, that's kind of what I'm trying to pursue. It's like this weird thing where it's like, all of this is supposed to be dumb. Like, I'm not trying to be like, this is God and her is his son. It's like, Would it be funny if God was a fan and like none of this is serious? Like, what if it was Jesus is like, and it's like the left hand rather than the right hand, which is kind of a dig at shit. And I don't know. It's all stupid shit that's like funny to me. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb.
Well, that's something that you said you're trying to pursue in your art more, like this kind of asking the wouldn't it be funny if question kind of thing to a lot of your work.
Yeah, I think it's a good question to kind of anchor yourself to.
Yeah.
Because it ends up allowing you to kind of tackle narratives in a way that might not necessarily make you go down like a deep woo-woo way, but also kind of allows you to talk about dark, deep topics in a much more interesting way to me.
Right. Yeah, maybe a more accessible way to people too.
Yeah, it's like the idea of tackling the topic of Jesus and God and the fact that he had to send a son to die in a weird way. That storyline is ridiculous, and trying to tackle it in a literal way would seem lame as shit to me.
Not to mention done by everybody in history for thousands of years. Yeah.
So I don't know. It just seemed fun to like kind of take a stab at that silly narrative, like a narrative that that's existed for a good chunk of time. That isn't that. I mean, I'm not really trying to be like political or like anti-religious. I just think it's funny. Do you know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah.
Like I'm not necessarily trying to talk shit about religion either. Like I'm not trying to offend anyone or anything like that. It's just like, wouldn't it be funny if there was a comedic version of this story in art?
Yeah.
And not in like a mean way either. Just trying to be done well.
Well, I was gonna say something. I don't know. It's kind of like fuck them if they do, but like, does it ever come to your mind like, what if somebody finds this offensive to know it?
Right. Well, what was interesting was someone asked at that gallery, someone asked me about that painting specifically. They were like, they were like looking. So they saw a painting at the gallery that they were showing of mine, because they have like two sections to the gallery.
Yeah, because they have that piece that he referenced.
And then
in the gallery.
He was like, that guy was looking through my Instagram, and then he met me and he's like, oh wow, I really like this new piece. Like, it's awesome. It has that old piece in it. And we started talking about it, and then. And then they were like, you seem like you have stuff that you want to talk about the piece. And I was like, I do, but are you guys like religious at all? Because I don't want to offend anyone.
Okay.
I took like a comedic stance on this narrative that I wanted to like go down in a silly way. And if you guys are religious, then I don't want to like tell you about it because I think it's rude. And they're like, oh no, we're not religious. And I was like, all right. So then I told them the shit, and they were like, oh, that's crazy. But it was, but it's just that thought is like, I mean, people might be offended for sure, but it's not my intent. My intent is literally just to do something well and have like undercover comedic notes to it that aren't necessarily like a comic strip of Muhammad or some shit.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like this somehow is a narrative on religion, but if anyone looks at it, they're not going to ever pick up on that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super interesting. I think it is. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think people will be offended because I'm not, unless they hear this and they get offended, but I don't think they'll figure it out unless you. It would suck if you were a huge fan of mine and also super religious.
Yeah.
And then you
also very contradictory.
Yeah. And then you fucking crack the code and you were like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's not necessarily a dig. It's just a silly way of telling a similar story. I mean, God technically, it's a female as well. So for some reason, I feel like Christians all think God is some guy in the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, when you pray, you say, "Dear Father."
You could add an extra verse to that. What if God was one of us song?
Yeah. But yeah, that was that.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Oh, very cool. So that's a bonus to our fans listening to the show.
Who give a shit?
Yeah.
Or you can all rip me on that. Either way. That shit wasn't even funny. But yeah, I don't know. I just think going back to that other one, the like faded one, you know, that one's, I think, an easier one to wrap your head around, the like comedic part of death, or like, you know, of taking that dark subject and kind of making it lighthearted a bit, while at the same time still like, I don't know, respecting the darkness in it. It's like, I'm not necessarily trying to be offensive to death. I just also want to be a bit silly.
Right.
But yeah, the fuck, there was a topic I wanted to bring up earlier.
Is this the one? That's the one, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Let's
Did
see.
it last year for Wonderland show? Yeah. Okay.
Hell yeah.
People are interested in looking that one up.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Bring up. I had like a artsy topic to bring up.
Yeah, I got one too, but you can go first.
Well, actually, I kind of got two of them, but yeah. So one thing I kind of was thinking about recently, just because it has to do with like collecting art and like just the value of art in general, both like what it actually means to own a piece of art, like even the non-monetary thing, but also this ties into the monetary thing, but like, so like the lifespan of a piece of art, I'm curious, like just as a hypothetical question, like if it does anything to the value of art, if it changes hands more often than others, like I wonder if a piece of art inherently gets more worth, like if it gains more worth by changing more hands, like if people are seeking after it and
probably depends on how you change your. For instance, if you changed your hand 100 times because it keeps landing in a thrift store,
right? Yeah.
I mean, that's a bit different than like art auction or something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. That's interesting.
Because I was thinking more like, for example, one of my friends has a lot of Phil Hale's work. Phil Hale's pretty well-known painter, and some of it he got kind of as trades, and some of it Phil gave it to him. So I'm wondering if the ones that he got from trades are just inherently more worth than just like a one-to-one transaction. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's a really good answer to that, but it's just something I just kind of been pondering a little bit. And yeah, because it does seem like sometimes art does go up and down in monetary value, even if people don't want to admit it, especially galleries.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to figure out if there's a better way to determine like the actual value of a piece, and if trading it or having it change ownership does that at all.
Yeah, I don't know how, I don't know enough to fucking answer that one.
Right.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to figure out if that was true or not, and then figure out how I could sell and then resell and resell and resell my work.
Yeah, because it would have to do a lot with like who ends up with it too.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. It's like, you ever hear of, like on Craigslist, people will trade up. You ever heard of that concept?
Yeah.
So someone will start with like, they have that like the red paperclip.
Right. That's movie. The famous one, right?
Yeah. And I just watched someone recently I saw someone on Reddit that like started with a pen, like a fountain pen, and ended up with a Porsche.
Oh, really?
So in a weird way, it kind of means that the pen is worth a Porsche, kind of, in a weird way.
Right, yeah.
Like it's almost like they end up being equivalent to plus effort, I guess. Pen plus effort equals Porsche. So that's what like this kind of sounds like to me. It's like
a little bit.
You
Yeah.
have to like keep trading up. Like if I can somehow get Leonardo DiCaprio to end up with my painting,
Right. Yeah. Sort of.
and that makes it worth more than if this Joe Schmo on the street with your goddamn pastrami sandwich
Yeah.
is fucking eating. Then gets my painting. Then it's like, oh.
Right. With Joey Bag of Donuts.
Yeah. Now that's New York.
Yeah. Where the hell is that thing?
Are you looking for another?
Whatever. All right.
But yeah.
But yeah, it is sort of that because art kind of is just worth what it is to the person who owns it, I guess. But what you were saying about having like the right person own it in a way, if it, where is I going with that?
Here's an idea. What if you put your painting on Reddit or on Craigslist?
Yeah.
And then you end up with a Porsche.
Right.
Then you can be like, hey, everyone, my paintings are obviously worth a Porsche.
And in a way, you would be right.
So all of them are worth $100,000.
Right. They're at least worth Porsches.
One other, you mentioned like the aging of paintings or making paintings last. Did that have anything to do with it?
Sort of, because I guess if it keeps moving up, I guess you could call it that. Eventually, it might end up in a museum where they're invested in keeping the thing together.
Yeah. I was talking to someone recently about who asked about varnish specifically, and I was like, "Yeah, it's just to kind of like protect." Because they were like, "Is it for protection or some shit like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's to protect your piece." And because they were asking like what varnish I use, and I was like, "I use this varnish, but I don't know too much about varnish other than." You put on your piece to protect it. And then they asked me more, and I was like, look, it's much more important to make sure you're making a piece that's worth varnishing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
That's worth actually trying to make it so it can age long. It's like, if your piece sucks and you varnish it, cool. It might end in a dumpster, though. You know, it might end in a thrift store, which is... It's his own thing.
Right.
Or thrift store paintings. But it's that like, it's much more important to focus like varnish. I'm sure there's not much between each varnish. I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there's some high end varnish that's worth the money to spend. Or I don't fucking know. But I'm just saying like, there seems like there's a limited amount of knowledge for varnish. You know what I mean? Like once you learn what they do and why you use it, and it's like, and how to use it, and this shit's like, all right, well, the like that's one day of learning. Maybe don't waste your time learning that and focus on fucking painting a good piece.
Yeah, unless you're getting into museum conservation, you don't really need to know that much about it.
Yeah.
At least I don't think you do. But.
Yeah, I'm sure there's very little to learn even in that world.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there's scientists probably trying to formulate better varnishes or whatever, but
why do they not work good enough?
Well, like like comparing like a Damar varnish, which is like I think it's a natural resin, and then now they have like Gamvar, which is a synthetic resin. So like
I use Gamvar.
Yeah, I use one similar to Gamvar.
But it's like the thing though too is like they're made so you can remove them and reapply.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like, okay, well, this thing will last. Let's say Gamvar lasts 30 years, just to be, I don't know, conservative with how long it lasts.
Sure.
Even though I'm sure it lasts way longer than that. It's like, okay, in 30 years, just remove and put the brand new varnish. That's extra varnish. That's super varnish on it. And then let's say if that one lasts 80 years, then if your painting lasts 80 years, then there's some extra super duper special varnish, then they'll remove it and put that shit. Like, don't waste your time thinking about some goddamn varnish. Just buy varnish and be fine with it.
That brings up another interesting question. Is like, how long does the average piece last? Like percentage of paintings made today, how many of those will actually end up being around 100 years from now? Like, what's the percentage of that? It's probably so few.
Yeah, probably. What you got to do is you got to start giving your pieces. You just got to start buying or selling your pieces to a young clientele
right.
that is super stoked on preserving your work so that yours can last 100 years.
There you go.
What I mean? And then in the contract, when you sell it to them, make them sign a contract that says you have to give this to your youngest child.
Right. Yeah.
And they have to preserve it. Or else my family will find you and charge you. Or my family will find you and ask for the painting back. Yes.
And he's a lawyer. He can make things happen.
I know contracts. One of the topics I wanted to bring up was this idea I've been thinking about. It's based on, I feel like it's based on how artists that have been painters for a long time have this kind of weird, maybe, I don't know if it's hatred or anger or something towards art. Or maybe not, just some negativity towards art. In a way that's maybe they don't think it's negative, but I think it's negative, where it's like you'll hear sometimes an older artist where they say like, oh, what do you say to like young artists? And they'll say like, oh, don't do it.
Oh, sure.
And I've been trying to think about why that is. And recently I thought that it might be based around the idea that there's no hedging your bets with this shit.
So you're specifically thinking or talking about like being a professional artist? Yeah.
And so my thought was that there's no hedging your bet to being like a painter, let's say, in the way that that exists in other trades. So, for instance, if I become a mechanic, right? I go to school to become a mechanic, whatever. If I don't end up being a mechanic, those skills can still serve me well in a different art or different work environment.
Okay.
There's no like, I'm a painter, let me go and translate this to a job that isn't in that realm. Do you know what I mean? Like, like there's no, it's like, even let's give it like you can go and be like a fucking video game concept artist or some shit, or or whatever. Like that's still, I feel like in that fucking realm of just creating artwork. Like it's still the same skill set. There's no like, I'm an electrician now because I used to paint, and there's a overlap in the knowledge that you need to do both of those jobs.
Sure,
you know what I mean? Like there's no, I'm a handyman because I fucking am a painter.
Right. Even a house painter, it's like different tools and stuff too. Yeah.
And so this idea kind of came, or me thinking about this came about because of artists saying to young artists, like, don't do it. Because I think the issue that some older artists have is that they've spent all this time on something they love and are passionate about, and they realize that there's a minimal amount of money that you can make from it, and that there's no hedging your bets. There's no overlap on like, oh, if this doesn't work out, at least I can go and jump to that. Yeah, it's like, it's like, well, now I gotta go be a waiter because I got no fucking skills from this that apply in the work environment.
Right. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. I mean, there's not much to this topic. I just have been thinking about like, I mean, it's a much more.
So are you trying to say like, are you trying to discourage older artists from saying stuff like that?
Maybe
is that what you're trying to
change the way you explain it.
Okay.
Maybe instead of saying don't do it, say you better be fucking all the way in for your entire fucking life, because you can't hedge that fucking bet. You don't get to just jump over to this fucking thing, because you're stuck in this thing and there's not much money to be made. So you better make sure that you love this shit enough to spend the amount of time to get good at it. And then you have to also spend enough time to get good at the business aspect of it to hopefully, fingers crossed, be successful.
Right. I guess in that way, that's the only bet you could hedge is by studying business, just in case, like, you don't.
But that's hedging your bet to be successful in art. What I mean is like hedging your bet to, like, say if I go to a school to learn a trade, I hedge my bet in being successful, because it allows me to go in different avenues. Even business, right? If I learn business, it's allowing me the ability to go in different directions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Art is very much the opposite. It's your road's one way, you know, and it's like, no fucking forks in this road. You better make sure you want to fucking stay on this road, because there's no way of getting off of it. Right. Onto like this sideways. I mean, I'm sure there are like little things here and there, but I feel like.
Yeah, at best, what are you going to do? Like framing or something like that?
Right.
Yeah. And even that's like, you're not really using your painting skills for the most part.
Yeah.
When you do that, so.
Exactly. And then maybe hop over to photography, but then
right.
that's its own beast to learn.
Right.
You know, it's like you got to relearn that whole shit and compete with people that have been learning that shit from the get-go. But yeah, I don't know. That was just some random shit I've been thinking about.
For sure.
Don't know if it adds to any conversation ever.
Do we ever add to any conversation?
Very true. Very fucking true.
So, Jet Martinez last week just kind of offhand mentioned this artist that I'd heard the name of, but I didn't know shit about him. And boy, did I find a douche.
Oh, when he was trying to talk some
treasure
shit.
chest, yeah. This guy, Alec Monopoly. Do you know anything about him?
I looked him up after the episode.
Yeah.
I've seen his shit before, yeah. But I don't know his history. I never liked his shit.
Right.
It ends up being one of those things we've talked about before where...
yeah.
What's his Instagram?
I think... Is it just Alec Monopoly? Yeah. All one word.
Alec, like...
Yeah, who's
Alec Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin, yeah. But yeah, his, like what we were saying before about art trading hands, like his whole goal is to get his art in front of famous people.
Well, isn't he like the child of a rich fuck?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. There's a thing I think about when I think about people that are the children of extremely wealthy people, which is you better fucking prove your worth because you're at a negative for me. You know?
Right.
Like the fact that you have the ability to somehow pretend that you are worth anything in like an art world.
Right.
Is like you better prove it through actual good art. Right. That's the only thing I give a fuck about.
Same.
If you want to go through some market route, you're garbage. I don't give a fuck about you. Like, you're just shit. Like, I'm not going to waste my time giving you any kind of attention. Which is kind of hypocritical that we're now talking about this. I know. Because I think that's the realm we're going down. But yeah, I don't know. That's how I feel. He's a piece of shit. Yeah. His work is garbage. His route he's going, I think, is garbage. He's a fame seeker. Right. I don't know. These people are lame to me.
They really are.
Even, I don't know. You know, the older you get, the more you realize, like for instance, let's say, I don't know, any rapper. Well, not any, but probably a good fucking amount of them. Like, for instance, let's say Nicki Minaj, right? like she has a shitload of money now. She's super successful. Good on her. Mm-hmm. Right. But there was a moment in her life before she was successful where she was probably an attention seeking person to a point where it was a bit like relaxed. You know what I mean? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like to get to where you're at in that environment, you have to be like this person who believes in that you're fit for greatness. Mm-hmm. And that idea to me, the older I get, the more I'm like, it's such a stupid fucking idea that this person who probably was like, at the time they were pursuing this goal was subpar. And, they didn't, a lot of these people, like if you see like images of celebrities when they're like on the cusp of being famous, or even like, I just saw something where Jimmy Fallon, it showed him in like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And Jimmy Fallon was looking at the picture and he was like laughing at it and saying like, holy fuck, that's the worst outfit ever. You know what I mean? Like horrible haircut. And it's just like, yeah, like, because you didn't have someone you pay to make you look cool every day. Right. Which is, I don't know. All that shit, all that fame shit seems so fucking stupid. It's just the ability to sell something. You've been convinced that these people have value in them being who they are. But it's all just some bullshit. I don't know. Fuck that guy. I hate all these fucking people. God damn it.
I just wonder where that comes from, like the ability to even sell that shit. Like, are these people, like all these celebrities, are they all just stupid? Like to even buy into that in the beginning, or like what? Or are these people just like really good schmoozers or whatever?
There are some celebrities that are pursuing an art form and that makes them a celebrity. You know what I mean? Like fucking the Joker is supposed to be amazing. Joaquin Phoenix is one of those wonky, crazy celebrity types. Yeah. But I think he's that because he literally is obsessed with his art form and just pursuing it to the best of his ability, which makes him a crazy artist type and not the like Hollywood, I don't know, Kardashian people type. You know what I mean? Like the talentless, great at marketing, talentless people. And you're like, I don't give a fuck that you're good at marketing. I mean, I give a little fuck. I appreciate it. Yeah. But where's the fucking, like, what am I just supposed to cheers that you're great at marketing? Right. Like, why don't I just go to the fucking number one person in a marketing firm and be like, celebrity. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you're great at marketing. You're a fucking celebrity. That Nike campaign you did was great. Right. It's, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, in a way, some people are doing that. Like I don't know. Is Gary Vee a marketer, or is he just like I
have no clue.
Like an entrepreneur more. I don't know. Whatever he is.
I never trust the fucking those guys. I feel like they serve a purpose as like get people hyped and like almost refocused or some shit.
Right.
I don't trust that all of them are like, I think they're all rich, but they're all rich for just saying cliche shit. Right. Which I don't know. Maybe we should be doing.
I know, right?
Fucking keep your head up. Fucking march forward. Never look back. Your weakness, you need to drop it. Like, right. If that includes people, drop all your weakness. Right. Stay focused. Eat peanut butter.
Make your weakness your greatest strength.
Yeah. People are going to tell you can't do it. Fuck those people.
Right. Damn, we should hold a seminar.
Yeah.
Pretty soon Gary Vee will be asking.
But life is constantly trying to hold you down. You need to break those chains and move forward. Just constantly move forward. Right. That's the gist of all of it.
Right. I don't know. I guess some people need to hear it, but man, those are some sad people.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the equivalent to like a song that pumps you up.
Right.
Like, that's all they are.
Yeah.
They're just a song that pumps you up. But somehow people have been convinced that they've got all the answers. I'm sure those people have got some demons in their closet. But yeah, I don't know. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Any opinion on that garbage? You're just gonna lick your hand? Not cool, man. Not cool. God damn it. But yeah. What do you want to talk about Monopoly, by the way? Did you have any juicy details?
Not really. I just thought his Wikipedia was hilarious because it looks like some marketer, like somebody. He probably it almost feels like he paid somebody to write it, but they didn't do a good job of it because like the first. Right, it just starts off. It says Alec Andon, professionally known as Alec Monopoly, is a trust fund child. He comes from a very wealthy, well-connected family. He became a street artist on his own.
This is on his bio?
This is the Wikipedia.
Oh, the Wikipedia. Oh,
yeah. It says he became a street artist on his own with the financial help and support of his mother. So that's already a contradiction. And it says, Alec is a genuine graffiti artist, and many believe that he grew talent from the street culture. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, this is on Wikipedia. Somebody go on there and change some shit.
Street culture. Yeah, it's just like someone, you know, a lot of people get offended by cultural appropriation. You know, they're like dude rocking dreadlocks or some shit. This is like the very essence of, I feel like, the most valid versions of that kind of concept is this weird thing where like people, it's like the idea of people trying to slum it. Do you know what I mean? You're
right.
Like, I'm in the street world doing graffiti. It's like you grew up in a goddamn mansion.
Right. Exactly.
Like, the art form exists because it existed from poor people figuring that shit out. You know, just like a lot of fucking innovative art forms are built upon like these people who kind of don't have an outlet, so they create something new, kind of in, you know, music being a big fucking thing, like the hip hop movement literally being that, and fucking jazz and rock and roll and all that shit kind of starting in these little creative pockets of like, I don't know, poor people figuring shit out in a new kind of innovative way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then him being like, somehow thinking he has some weird link to it. Like,
right.
You're the farthest thing from that concept of art, or from like
from that specific genre. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, and I think he's literally never done graffiti.
Yeah, I think that's what it says in here. It says there are no tags or credit to street graffiti, as practically all the walls he has painted are legal and commissioned. There are no illegal walls painted by Alec Monopoly street art. This is all actually one sentence. Alec Monopoly street art, originally from NYC, his signature is covering his face with his hand or using a medical face mask to hide his facial identity, trying to do the same as Banksy by covering his face as if to avoid police attention.
And then he has his dad in the picture.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, man. Like, it's like you have your dad in the picture with you while you're covering your face.
Right.
That's not how that works.
But that's just what's so funny to me about it. Like, he's not even like trying to do a good job of being what he wants to be. Yet he's still successful, I guess, monetarily in that way, but is he even really? like is he just trust fund, like right there it said in the beginning? The
idea of street art or graffiti is the idea that you're risking something to create something.
Yeah.
When you're a super rich person, your risk is nothing because you can buy your way out of prison.
Right.
Or jail. You know, it's like, what are you risking? Literally nothing.
Yeah.
So why would I care about your art if you don't risk anything for it? If that's the whole point of that art form, is that there's a level of risk to create that thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's a dumb, he's a fucking idiot. God, I feel like we talked about him too long.
I just find him hilarious.
You're no artist. You obviously don't have the talent.
He's the Tekashi 6ix9ine of the art world.
I don't really know much about Tekashi 6ix9ine, really.
Good. You shouldn't.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
It's like there's this weird world that lives where people are famous and everyone seems to know them, but no one knows. Like, for instance, the Jonas Brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard a song ever by them.
Right.
And somehow I know that they're people.
Right.
You know, they're not only that they're people, but that they're musicians. Ugh.
Yeah.
Same with Tekashi 6ix9ine. Same with this fuck. There's this weird world you can live in where you're somehow attached to an art form, but you're really not. Like you're not the fucking. You're not being. I don't know. It's like there's too many fucking people in the world is what it ends up being.
Right.
So you can find enough fucks that somehow, or like if you can get in like the Jonas Brothers, they obviously seem like some record label put a shitload of money to market the fuck out of them to the point where everyone somehow knows them. And I've talked to people a shitload of times about the Jonas Brothers where we're like, have you heard a song by them? And everyone's like, no.
Really?
Yeah. Have you?
I don't think. Maybe I have, and I just didn't know.
Exactly.
Right.
Not enough to listen to it more than once.
Yeah. I'm not the target demo.
Maybe in a Starbucks in the background or something.
Right,
I have no fucking clue. All I can say is
that's like Disney Channel shit.
Yeah. But it's this idea that everyone somehow they're famous before anyone's heard or seen their product.
Right.
And you're like, how is that possible? That you're somehow supposed to be a big deal, but no one knows who the fuck or what the fuck you make. Shouldn't it be the opposite way around? Shouldn't it be we want to learn who the artist is based on the skills that they've fucking put forth, based on the artwork that we're really excited about seeing or hearing or watching or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some phrase about that. It's something like the fucking horse before the mule or some shit. I don't know.
Oh, putting the cart before the horse.
There we go.
Yeah.
Figured that shit out. That's what that always seems like with these kind of fucks, where it seems like their emphasis on marketing is much more important than the actual the product that they're creating.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And for those people, I can fart in their face and give zero fucks about.
I just felt like talking a little shit.
Hell yeah. We talked that shit.
You want to talk some shit?
Yes, we do.
Hell yeah. What else we got?
Should we get into listener questions? We're at
What time?
we're hour and a half.
By the way, I wanted to say I watched Doom Patrol. That's my shit I watched recently that I was into.
What's that?
It's I think it's a Marvel comic thing.
Oh, is it?
It's a TV show. It's starring what's the dude from The Mummy?
Oh, Brendan Fraser?
Brendan Fraser.
Really?
Yeah.
Speaking of, where's that guy been?
Doom Patrol, killing it.
Nice.
He plays a robot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty
cool.
good. I would recommend it.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know what else I've watched. I'm waiting for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel season 3 to come out. That shit is fire.
Is
Have we
it?
talked about that show at all?
No, I've never. Well, I've only heard of a couple people that watched it, but I didn't know anything
If
about
you're
it, really.
a comedic fan, I feel like this is a great show to geek out on.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
done super well.
What's the theme of the show, I guess?
The premise is a lady, becoming a stand-up comedian and kind of stumbling through that process. And they tackle it really well. And it's supposed to be around the time where Lenny Bruce is around. So Lenny Bruce is like
is he a character in the show?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it's done well. I think it's done really like authentic to how comedians pursue comedy in a way.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like a period piece, so it looks cool. And,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That is actually the nice thing about period piece.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of forced to make it look good, or else just doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. It's an awesome show, I think. But yeah, that's all I got.
Well, hopefully I can recommend The Joker after this. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I hear it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I heard the classic thing where like critics were kind of half and half on it, but then like everybody that I know has seen it says it's good. So
well, I
I'll
hear
trust
that
them
like the
a bit more.
rating, the critic rating is supposed to be super low.
Mm-hmm.
But then I forget where I was listening to some podcast where they were talking about someone that they knew that was an actual critic, and that critic was just embarrassed for critics.
Oh, really?
Because they're not. It was the idea that these critics aren't necessarily doing their job, but they're more like playing this role of like, am I supposed to like this based on the social environment?
Right.
And
Okay.
It doesn't
yeah.
allow them to say like this piece of artwork was done really well and the storyline's really good. Instead, they're like, oh, this is supposed to be bad. This is supposed to be taboo. We can't talk about this.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah, because isn't the angle that some people are taking on? It's like, oh, this will inspire incels and serial killers and shit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it does, I mean, I don't know.
They were gonna find something that inspires them.
Exactly. I don't know if it's necessarily inspired, but maybe it might hype someone up. But in the same way that there's plenty of movies that already exist that could hype people
Exactly.
up.
Yeah.
You watch the goddamn Terminator 2 and probably be hyped up if you're an incel trying to do some incel shit.
Right.
You know?
Just the incel trying to do incel shit.
Yeah. Hey, incel went incel. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's a stupid thought. It's like, I always think about like, you know, how angry people would get when like religious people would be like, I don't like this movie because it has like gay people in it or violence or whatever. And people be like, shut your bitch ass up. And now it's like all these people are like, oh, we can't fucking show violence or I don't know, a point of view that isn't interesting to me, but it might be interesting to people, but to them it's a tab. The idea of having a taboo subjects it seems like weird to me in general.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like you're not allowed to talk about this because you think we're not allowed to. I don't know. It seems stupid.
Yeah, it seems weirdly puritanical.
Yeah. But whatever. People are just dumb. But it was funny to hear like a critic being upset, like being like, God damn, this makes critics look like fucking, because what it does is it makes people not respect them even more, which might be a good thing.
Yeah, maybe.
But you know what I mean? It's like, oh, if you're a critic that's trying to take your job serious and really like give your opinion on work based on your your knowledge on the history of this art form.
Yeah, I guess it's just like anything else. Like 90% of them are garbage.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. I don't even know how you become a critic. That's always one of those weird jobs. Like, how the fuck do you get there? You know, how do you become a food critic? You know, like, I got a good
start a
tongue.
blog. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I got
My
a good
tongue is hella good. Like, what the? How did you? Is there a critic school you got to go to? You're like, taste this. Is it good? And you're like, yes. And you're like, get the fuck out of here. You were not made for this shit.
Right. Yeah.
Seems like a weird.
It's probably it probably has to do with like how well you can write about it. I don't know.
Right.
Or talk about it whatever. But it's
just
like,
because you're a good writer doesn't mean you have good taste in shit.
right. Yeah. So
Like, I can explain why I think this. Someone could write how they think a Twinkie tastes delicious in a very interesting way.
sure.
Doesn't mean Twinkies are delicious.
Right.
They're fucking disgusting, and that's all we got to say about that. Agreed. Thank you, everyone, for having my back.
Right.
But yeah. Sorry, we're on questions.
Right.
You just got hit with a classic waiting to try tangent.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got just a few. So
All right.
All right. Well, first one, David Chaffetz. What brush should I use to paint good?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. And I just recently, someone from Germany sent me a couple brushes. This company is called Cum Brush. That's a K-U-M brush.
This is not a joke, everybody. This is not a joke.
Yeah. Actually, they got some decent. I don't know. Find whatever brush works good for you. Treacle would be awesome.
Right. And I think David Chaffetz is trolling us because he only uses palette knives.
Does he? I thought he uses brushes too.
Maybe just a little bit here and there, but yeah, for the most part, he just uses palette knives. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
But yes, we do have a coupon code for you all if you decide that Trickel is your go-to brush company.
Or if you want to try a German brand,
yeah,
that's K-U-M, cum brush. Every time I use those brushes, because when you're an artist, you'll have like brands reach out to you that, maybe coming up or whatever. And they're like, hey, we'd love to send you some stuff so you can try out and, and hopefully you like it. I'm like, sure, free art shit. Yeah,
right.
I'll take it always without any like strings attached. And then, but they're like, cool, we're cum brush. And I was like, still makes me laugh every time I see those brushes, and they're not bad.
Nice.
I should show you them when we were talking about the other day. I was like, yeah, they're actually pretty decent. I like them.
Nice. Well, yeah, that was a free one for you guys.
Yeah.
At cum. Let's see. Next one is it worth? Oh, this is Oblivious and Totally Aware. Asked, is it worth starting a YouTube channel or is the market overrun?
Oof. I don't know. If you got something unique to say and a unique way of tackling it, you can be successful. I feel like in most platforms.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
That's the determining factor for success. I mean, you also have to do it well.
Right. Do it consistently as well, especially on YouTube.
Consistency is important. But I think having a unique way to tackle things. I always get in arguments with my wife because she does a YouTube channel. And I was like, you gotta fucking, because she's always looking at other people's shit and being like, I like how this person does this. I'm like, you gotta really like fucking think about how you want to say what you want to say. Because everyone's gonna have a fucking how to do this and how to do that. That's how YouTube became what it is today. It was always like how DIY is such a large fucking thingy on there. So
yeah, it's very true.
Art, you would have a unique way of explaining or portraying or doing what you're doing. But if you do and you're good at doing art, and
you can stick with it.
Yeah, that's another thing is talent is like being a good artist or good at whatever you do also is a huge way of selling yourself. Sometimes people are like, how do you grow your account? And I'm like, you got to get better.
Right. It's
because
true.
How you're not going to trick people into liking something that's not that good because you're competing with a large pool of not that good artists.
Right.
And then the pool whittles the better you get because the better of an artist you get, the smaller the grouping of artists there are until you get to a higher and higher point until you're, at some point, you getting better doesn't really help probably, but it's getting better or being good is a huge selling point. Having a good product to sell. Than having a unique way of selling that product.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like asking just because it's YouTube, but because it's, I guess, a relatively new medium, but people sometimes say things like is painting worth it or has every idea been painted already? It's like, well, no. It's like you just got to figure out your way of doing it.
Exactly. You see it all the time too on YouTube. Like people all of a sudden just start blowing up, because they have, a unique way of doing whatever the fuck they're all about.
Right.
I remember H3H3. You ever seen that? I remember when I found them, they had like 1,000 subscribers.
Oh, really?
and now they're like ridiculously big.
Aren't they like one of the top channels? At least for what they do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I showed it to MJ. I'm like, these people are funny. You should check them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got hyped on it, and I kind of like stopped like watching their shit. She thought it was only Ethan at the time.
Oh, okay.
And then they just kept blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
And because they had a weird, unique kind of way of doing these like personal current event videos that was unique to them being whatever, having their opinion and being silly and all that kind of shit. That didn't seem forced. But
yeah.
I mean, I guess they've been around for probably a while now, so maybe they don't. But I see it all the time. I remember there was a woodworker. He's kind of big now. I think he might have like 500,000 subscribers. But I remember I found him too when he was like 1,000 subscribers. And I remember he did like these video essay versions of woodworking where everyone else was doing like DIY. And he was kind of more like about like the philosophy and these things about creating.
That's cool.
What he's creating. And he would film them really well. And I remember when I first saw a video, I was like, oh, this guy's going to blow up. And then he would like every video, it was like from like 1,000 to 2,000, then 2,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 12,000. And it was like almost every video he would just double up on the subscribers because he had this unique way of kind of tackling woodworking and in this way that I haven't seen before and doing it in a really good way. So, and I don't know, I can remember, I mean, he's been around for a couple of years now too, but it's still like 3-4 years. And he went from working a full-time job to now having like a warehouse because he was working out of his garage. Now he has a warehouse where he just does woodworking and pushes out furniture, and he sells a shitload of furniture as well. And that's his full-time business now. It's YouTube and furniture making.
Wow.
And you're like, good on you, man. You're fucking doing a killing in something you love and are passionate about.
Yeah.
In 5 years. I mean, and doing it at a really high level. Like making probably a shitload of money.
So yeah. I mean, you could start a YouTube channel, but if you don't have a direction for it, it's going to be tough to do anything with it. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's not that the market there's no room for anybody. It's just you got to make room for yourself in it.
And there are people that are going to put a shitload of time to figuring out how to do their shit good and putting a lot. So I would say if you want to do it, you should really put some effort into what you're trying to say, how you want to tackle it, what you need to like do these YouTube things, because it's not like early YouTube where everyone could fucking put on this video that they recorded with a hamburger.
Right.
You know, it's like you got to fucking, everyone's got these HD fucking cameras that are just like super, and they're super gorgeously filmed. So it's like everyone somehow became a great video editor, great.
Yeah, no kidding. Probably learned it all on YouTube.
Yeah. But all that shit takes time to learn. And all that shit takes time to get good at. I mean, you shouldn't not do it because of that, but just go in knowing that there's going to be a lot of learning curves. So even if you hit the ground running, you might not have the skills to make shit just get better every day. And
yeah, I guess it comes down to what you want out of starting a channel on YouTube. Are you trying to blow up, or you just want to just have a place to share stuff on there for like a really small group of people?
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all up to you.
Well, look at us giving advice.
Yeah.
All right. Next one's from Big Heppos.
Shout out.
What was your... Okay, there's 3 questions here, so I'll just read them first. What was
multiple choice or true and falses? Not good at tests.
This might be essay version.
Essay.
What was your first impression of each other when you two first met? At what point did you two realize that your art was a way to make some money, and what was the first piece you each sold? And then, he answered his own question on this one. Why is 6 afraid of 7? Because 7 is a registered 6 offender. All right,
solid dad joke. Solid dad joke.
Yeah. So first one, what was your first impression? Huh. I think we met at like at an art show, right?
Yeah. At Spoke Art.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because
my first impressions were he's probably got a sweet six pack, and I'd like to see what he's got under the trunk. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't really like. I don't know if I'm really aware of first impressions, especially at art shows.
Right.
I'm just there to like meet people and have a good time. So it's like, oh, I think I met you. You knew MJ already.
Right, yeah.
So
I've known MJ for years before. So
yeah, and then she was like, oh, he's an artist. And I'm always like, oh, cool. Because I just enjoy meeting other artists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think MJ showed me your work before.
Oh, okay.
So she was like, oh, I've showed you his work. He does like the ladies with the flowers. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was already familiar with your work. And I was like, cool.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Like I know, because I remember when I already moved to Santa Rosa, or I was maybe planning on moving to Santa Rosa.
I don't think you'd moved yet. You were probably right before. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I remember being like, is there any artist in this fucking city?
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. There's Sergio. And I was like, oh, wow. He's fucking actually good.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know. And I remember she was like, I don't know if she mentioned that you were extremely shy before I met you, or maybe after. No, I think it might have been after. And I was like, oh, Sergio's cool. And she was like, he's so shy. And I was like, oh, he seemed cool to me.
Right. Yeah. I remember you saying that. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think, that was my first impression.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause my first impression of you was because like through MJ, and you guys had just started dating around that time, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So might have been dating for a chunk then, maybe like a year.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you're right. But yeah, I just remember, because I don't think I'd ever met anybody that MJ had dated before you. Mm-hmm. So I had no idea like what her tastes were. Uh-huh. So like, here comes this giant man, like for this little 5-foot girl. It's like, oh, okay. That's what she's into.
I don't know if MJ knew that either.
Okay. But then we just like started talking about art and shit. And just like, okay, he's a good person to talk about art with. So this is cool.
Yeah, nothing. I don't know. Especially at art shows when you meet people, it's always like so like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I go in knowing like I might not see this person ever again, or we might become good friends. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that weird thing of like, oh, you're this artist. Oh, that's cool. Like maybe, I don't know. There's no like, I have no preconceived notions of where direction this relationship might head.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, all right, cool. Like even if I like or don't like your art, you know what I mean? Like if I'm a fan, like, oh shit, that's awesome. I still might not enjoy you as a person.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I could think of some people right now that I'm like, I hate that. I don't hate that person, but I'm like, cool, like that person. Like I don't really say hi or bye. I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how to explain this.
You want to talk some shit?
Some artists are awkward, and some artists are egomaniacs, and some artists are whatever.
Right.
Pretentious cunts.
Yeah.
You know, so it's whoever you fit in with, is kind of my mentality.
Yeah. If
you seem cool to me, then I want to hang out with you. And if it's not mutual, then it's probably we're probably gonna not be friends. And vice versa, you know? Someone might think I'm cool, but I might be like, not my cup of tea. Mm-hmm. And then we're not friends. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
I feel like you're getting needlessly defensive.
All I'm saying is, fuck off. What the fuck is your problem? Like, don't come at me, bro. All I'm saying is, if you're having a conversation with Brett Crawford and then fucking someone introduces themselves and you say hi, then you go back to your conversation and they fucking go crazy on you, like, gosh, chill. There's other days You can get closer with a person.
But every once in a while, you can be a real cunt.
But MJ has the like opposite effect. Like I'm always like, the way I build friendships is like throughout time. You know, I'm in no rush.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, doesn't. I'm not mad or happy or sad or whatever. MJ is like, oh, I want to be friends with this person that I barely know.
Right.
And then she's like, we should hang out. We should blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm always like,
she's much more eager to like jump in the deep end with somebody and figure it out.
Works out. That's the issue.
Right.
She's always like, we should do this, we should do that with like everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And then it happens with no one.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, because we have no fucking time. That's the issue. And somehow every time you see these people, you tell them that. And then after a while, what happens is you just don't try anymore. You know what I mean? If every time I see you, I'm like, oh, we should hang out. We should we should go and do this and that. And then you're like, totally. And then the next time I'm like, oh, we should do this. We should hang out.
Right.
By the 10th time, you're like, we say this every fucking time. Maybe we should come to the conclusion that that's not going to happen.
Has anyone ever said that to her?
No. Maybe me.
Yeah.
About someone she's talked about.
Right. Yeah. I just think it would be hilarious for somebody to actually say that to her face.
MJ seems like a kid that was homeschooled. You know what I mean? I love you, MJ. But the way she makes friends is always so weird to me. I'm always like, that's how you make friends? But it's not. The way she makes friends is very much the natural way.
Okay.
For her friends, her actual friends.
Okay.
It's exactly how we all do it. The normal, you meet someone, you hang out every once in a while.
Right.
Or you kind of like hanging out with them, you hang out with them more. But I don't know. I don't know. Well, do you, boo-boo?
I don't know. I guess the happy medium is somewhere in between.
Maybe.
Okay. Do you remember the first piece you sold?
I think. Oh yeah. I sold it in high school to a teacher.
Oh, really?
Have I talked about this before?
I don't know.
I think I drew a ballerina, and at the time, a ballerina, a female in general, was not at all what the fuck I was doing. I was doing much more dark, angsty, moody shit.
We know about that, yes.
Yeah. And I did this. So when you're in art class, they're like, all right, today you're gonna do fucking watercolors or some shit. So this day, I think we were doing oil pastels, and I did an oil pastel ballerina.
Okay.
And then just fucking threw it together because I was like, I don't give a fuck about this shit.
Yeah.
And then some guy, I think he was a French French teacher.
Oh, really?
They would do these shows in the school,
really
for art, once a year they would do these art shows from all the art students.
Really? Huh.
And then the more talented artists would kind of have a little bit more of a featured wall rather than just everyone's sphere, everyone's skull. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
They would have their work. And so I did a couple of things on some wall. And then the next day, the art teacher was like, oh, the French teacher would always come and buy a piece, his favorite piece from the show every year. And so she was like, oh, he wants to buy your ballerina. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, know this, that he is going to throw at a price and he wants you to counter the price with a higher price to teach you that your art's is more valuable than you think.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. And so I had to go to his class during art class and then bring the piece. And then we had to sit down and talk about it. And he filled out he had this contract where it was like, if I frame the piece and sell it, then I will give you half the money, but I will not give you the money. I will deduct the money of the cost of the frame from the price.
Jeez.
And I was like, okay, I don't give a fuck. I was a broke ass kid. I was give me anything. And so he said like, he would buy it. He was like, I want to buy it for, I think like $50 or $60. And I was like 75. Cause I was like, I have to go higher. Cause this is what I was told. And he was like, deal. And then he was like, right when he said deal and shook my hand, he was like, you priced it too low. He was like, I would have paid double the amount. And I was like, ugh, give me that shit. Like, give me that money then.
You're right. Yeah.
I'm poor.
Get your money where your mouth is, motherfucker.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That was my first sal. It was very amateurish and
very held your hand through the whole deal.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty embarrassing whenever I think about it.
That's funny.
But yeah, how was that? $75.
Well, you were way ahead of me. I think the first painting, or I guess piece of art I sold, was actually like my last year of college. I did a show here at a gallery that's like changed a bunch of different ownerships over the years, but it's on South A Street here in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
But at the time, it was a pretty legit gallery. Like Jeremy Fish had shown some work there before. Like it was like one of the first places he showed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so I did a little series of paintings that originally were for school, but I had this, like, I really liked the light in the bathroom where I stayed in San Francisco at the time. So I just did like all these little still lifes and like a shower scene and stuff. And I sold a couple of little paintings. I don't even remember for how much. Probably like around 100 or 200 or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, nothing too special.
For
I don't
sure.
have a great story to go with it.
Did you feel some kind of way when you did it? Like when you sold them?
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool. This actually, you can actually sell your work.
Right. Yeah. I think the next time I sold a piece, I was I think I was 20. Or the next time at least I could remember selling a piece, maybe. I was 20 and it was at like that destructure. My first
oh, okay. Yeah.
I think that was like the first time I sold anything that was like, I guess that was the first time I probably sold anything that was like my actual art.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I think
that felt like your first legit sale.
Yeah. I think that sold for like 600 or 700, somewhere in that realm.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember being like, damn. And now sometimes I think back and I'm like, who the fuck bought that shit for that much money?
Right.
But yeah.
Find him again. Sell him for $6,000.
Serious. You had enough money to waste your money on that shit?
Do you know the piece still? Like, do you remember it?
I kind of remember it. But
if you saw it now, would you be like, ugh?
Oh yeah, for sure I would be. But yeah, it is what it is. We all suck at some point. We all think we're good when we suck.
Right. All right, let's go to the next one. Jamg art. Maybe that's Jamg art. I'm in college and we're being taught that all art is deeper than the surface image, that all art, quote unquote, means something. Do you think that's true? He's got a few more questions. Should we tackle that one or should I read more?
We could tackle that one and go. Well, do you want to read it all and then go back?
Okay, yeah. Is color choice in your art important to you? If so, it's something you use consciously to express the mood of the work, or do you find it's an unconscious choice? And do you think it's possible to express human emotion without painting a human figure?
All right, some good questions in there. The first one being, does all art have meaning, but
like beyond the surface image? That's, I guess.
Beyond the surface image. That's a
Well,
that's weird word. Like,
maybe that's not what he's saying. I think
so
maybe it's
beyond
just like
being like a beautiful painting or something like that. Or what do you mean by that?
I'll just take this part of it, the most basic part that they're saying that all art means something. Like, do you agree or disagree with that?
I don't know. Maybe no. Yes, I'd say yes.
I would
not mean anything worth saying.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I tend to lean toward that too. Where I guess you can extrapolate meaning from anything if you really try to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess even in a way, if you don't mean for it to mean something, you can maybe see something about the artist through looking at it. Like even just like a little doodle, you can kind of tell a little bit about the artist.
Yeah. Or if it's like Alec Monopoly, it's like his work means that he's a full bitch.
Right.
There's meaning in that.
Yeah.
It might not mean anything worth talking about too much, but it means something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, I don't know, the guy that paints shit where he drips paint on a panel, you know, and
right.
And that might not mean shit, but it means that he's lame as fuck.
Shout out to the listeners who could figure that out.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's artists that do a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I guess the only pushback that I would give to that is like if your school is trying to say that like everything has a deep meaning to it, then I would say no, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's where the kind of line gets drawn.
Right.
And even sometimes if it's just because it might be associated with some deep meaning, that doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, sure. It's trying to say that. Is it succeeding?
Right.
Probably not. I mean,
yeah, it's possible that people might think it means something deep and it really isn't in actuality too. There's a lot of that, I feel like, especially like in modern art.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. And I don't know, even trying to pursue something deep might not necessarily be the best kind of way of thinking if you want to say, if you're like, I want my art to have meaning and say something. That doesn't mean it has to be some fucking great achievement of the meaning of life. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't necessarily have to tackle these complicated subjects that sometimes just seem like they're bullshit subjects. You know, you know what I mean? Like, so maybe trying to, like, meaning can be something much more smaller and much more intimate of your life or something.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like, technically there's the meaning beyond the surface is a weird way of thinking about it, because it's like, well, technically it's literally everything on that surface is supposed to be the meaning. So, so in a way it's like, no, there is no meaning past the surface other than maybe a signature on the back and the canvas or wood panel underneath the surface that they painted on. But everything that they're trying to say most likely is on that surface.
Right.
So I guess the meaning is literally on the surface.
Right. Well, I guess they mean more metaphorically.
I'm just taking it a literal way.
Okay.
So no, there is no meaning past the surface. It's literally what it is. It's meaning on the surface.
Right. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
I'm sorry. I'm just being an asshole. That's what I'm being.
They're our listeners. They know.
Yeah.
What about the color choice one? I mean, for sure, for me, yes.
Yeah. I think for most artists, color tries to be intentional. I think maybe sometimes you're just kind of like you're going for it, and maybe kind of like reacting to the piece and being like, this could use some of this or that or this.
Right.
But I think a lot of times I'm intentional with what color choices I choose. For mood, I mean, I think so. Yeah,
even for me doing like plein air stuff, I really consciously think about the colors I'm selecting, even if I'm quote unquote painting what I see. Like I'm still like kind of keying it to a certain color harmony that I'm trying to achieve in it. So yeah, even like the most basic things, I try to think of color choice in that way.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it before, but the idea of like trying to pursue, like, say if I'm painting a figure, this like kind of nostalgic feel through the work. And a lot of times that has to do with the way you kind of make the image into like a, to portray like photographs from a certain era or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's supposed to kind of make you feel a certain way, or, having cold skin tones rather than warm skin tones will make you feel a certain way about the figure or tell you something about it. Or, I mean, hopefully both. But yeah, I don't know. It's all color choices.
Right.
And that shit.
Yeah, it's definitely not an unconscious choice for me for the most part.
It would be weird if it was, but sometimes people do that shit.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. Yeah, I think the artists whose color I like, they are definitely doing it consciously.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't talk for everyone. There's like, like Splatty McSplatters, Splat.
Yeah.
And other people like that. Like, I have no concept of what goes through their head when they are doing their shit. So I can't speak on them, but for us.
Alcohol.
Well, I guess you're making me connect more with that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the last one is, you think it's possible to express human emotion without painting a human figure?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
we
it's all symbol. Yeah, it's also that, but like we use symbols all the time that aren't human based.
Yeah.
So
the easiest way to think about it is like literally someone paint a monkey. Like there's, I mean, Chris Lieb.
Right. Yeah.
Like
shout out.
Shout out. Yeah. It's like it's that thing where he paints he paints obviously on purpose apes and astronauts. It's like the farthest spectrums of this kind of, but you're supposed to be able to see humans in, like the piece we talked about. The eyes were so like, they're so human like, and they're so like the cloudiness in them makes you kind of think about the age of someone that you might know that has cloudy eyes. And there's that joke. What the fuck is it? Maybe it was the show Community or something. I can't remember, but there was some show where they were talking about how weak like that some generation was, and they were like, yeah, look, and they like name a pencil and then they break the pencil, and then you can hear everyone go like, oh. And it's literally because you just somehow made that thing a living thing.
Right.
I
remember watching that, that company Boston Dynamics that makes those robot things. I remember like maybe a year or two ago, they started getting really good where they started to act like very animal like. And there was one where they were trying to like knock it over. So the person like is like kicking it, and you're like, oh, don't kick that thing. It has feelings.
Yeah. People get, I think PETA or some shit got mad about it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, but these are like the simplest. I think a lot of times we talked about it earlier, how like you can get like more and more complicated with narrative. And then for people where you try to like the mural where you try to just do like a good and evil thing, and people have the inability to understand what we think is like a extremely simple narrative. And I think that the question of being like, can you paint a human without a human in it, or how did they word it again?
Paint human emotion without using a human figure.
Yeah, it's like, I think
it's like people do it all the time.
You can start from like the most easiest way to kind of understand this being like animals and things like that. A pencil with a name, and then you like can slowly pull farther and farther and farther away from this idea, and you can kind of get to a point where it's like what the fuck's dude's name that paints all the like red paintings that everyone cries in front of with the boxes?
Oh, Rothko.
Rothko.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like at some point he's kind of trying to achieve. It seems like he's trying to achieve this thing where it taps into human emotion, and it's like, well, that's way farther down the line than like trying to like anthropomorphize anything. You know, it's like it's just way more deeper down that road.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, none of that stuff has a human in it.
Right.
Even literally, you can just paint a shadow of a human, and that's not a human.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can kind of use that as a narrative tool that can speak a lot to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about Peter Pan, and it ends up being its own kind of thing. Its own, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I think we covered it.
Sure. Hope that helped or not. Maybe we just sound like fucking idiots. God damn it, Sergio.
Well, they still ask us questions, so I guess there's something to what we're saying here.
Or not.
Yeah. This motherfucker, Tony Wensley, what pencil do you use? What pencil do you use?
I'll tell you. There's a scene in The Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Joker uses a pencil.
Yeah.
That's the only pencil I use. And for that reasons, Tony.
Okay, here's his real question. Okay, if you could be hypnotized for one day only, then to be able to both think and paint the same as another artist, who would you choose?
Ooh,
good. That's a tough
question.
Yeah. Huh. We'll forgive that pencil and for that.
Would you be able to retain some of that knowledge or some of that? That's the question I would have about, because say if you were hypnotized and you were taught to paint like.
Yeah, then it's not even like you actually did it. Then if you don't retain anything,
even if I don't retain the skill, do I retain the
actual act of doing it,
like the mindset that person, because it might change my, like for instance, if I did pick drip and make drip drop drippity drip drop,
sure,
right? Then and I got to paint in his mindset, maybe I would end up gaining more respect of his artwork. Highly doubt it.
Yeah. Or it might be like, oh, everything I thought was true. Yeah.
But it's that might change my answer of who I'd pick based on like, like maybe I would want to pick someone that doesn't paint anything like me, just so I can kind of understand, especially shit. I'm like, I don't understand why anyone would fucking do what this person does, because it seems like a waste of time.
I see.
And a waste of paint. It's like, we get it, you drip shit. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about anyone specifically.
Right.
But it's that kind of like, maybe it would be cool to kind of go into their head for a bit and be like, now I see, like now I'm not going to do it. Maybe it would convince me to do it. And all of a sudden I'm just like, poking it up. But I don't know. It's that would, I either go that way or the like, I want to be the best fucking painter, or paint like the best painter I think, or the person I think is the best painter ever. It would be one of those two things.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. For me, the first choice would be somebody who I think like I want to try and steal some of that from it.
Who you got? Sergeant?
Sergeant is probably up there, but I'm trying to think if there's somebody who I would want to know more. Maybe Rembrandt, just because his work is so like people are still trying to figure that out. Maybe Velasquez even. I don't know. I think I like Rembrandt as a painter a little bit more than Velasquez though. So in that scenario where you get to retain things, then yeah, I'd probably go with Rembrandt first. In the scenario where it's just like I just want to know what they're thinking or whatever, like for that time. That's a good question. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I don't know. There's even other people that I'm like, I don't know. I also think like of whoever the fucking mean artist that painted like cartoon classics was, like Bugs Bunny and all that shit. I'm like, that would be cool to be in their head for a bit too, and paint like them for a bit and kind of like see how they think about
right,
like the way they tackle shit.
Sure,
too.
yeah.
Or
like a lion deck, or how he did how he came up with his shapes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, there's so many fucking options out there.
Right.
The question would need more info. But I like the question.
Right, yeah.
But it just depends if I get to retain any of that knowledge. If I get to retain the abilities, then I would just pick the fucking dopest artist.
Right.
I'm like, cool, I get half of what I learned.
Right, exactly.
or a quarter. I'm like, all right, best motherfucker, let's line him up and knock it down.
Right, exactly, yeah.
If it's just to kind of see how their brain works and kind of retain like, oh, that was interesting, how they think about this problem and how they solved it, then maybe like one of those like a cartoonist or something like that would be cool. And then if it's like, I don't get that fucking work, I want to see if it's bullshit.
Right.
Or if there's something to it that I'm not getting.
Yeah.
It would be cool to go through like one of those guys, but it kind of reminds me of the time machine question, like if you had a time machine, who would you go back to see?
Oh yeah.
And one of the people I always think about is like a religious figure. Cause it's like, it would be cool to go back and see Jesus, because I'd be like, is this guy full of shit, or did he really do this shit?
Right.
Which I don't think he really did that shit, but it's like, how did he get, if he didn't, how did he get over on these people? Was he just like a really awesome guy who the like tall tales just grew from?
That's true.
Or was he like, the Family Guy thing where they show Jesus and he's doing like the thumb?
Oh yeah.
The fucking, and it's like, oh, he's just like a shit magician, but just he was like the first. So yeah, I don't know. But it's one of those things where it's like, I just want to see if it's bullshit or not. And that's why I would pick an abstract artist. If I did, it'd be like, oh, I want to see if it's bullshit.
Right.
It's a super interesting question, because it then makes you think it then puts you in the mindset of other artists. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, what makes this person, like what part of the cartoonist would make me want to be that? It's because the way they think of how to solve a problem in the most minimalist way and still achieve something that we can visually understand.
Right. That's interesting.
And so there's like benefits to multiple art types. It's almost like the painter I feel like the least interested in going in, because it's almost like I kind of understand the mindset of that person a bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm already in that brain. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Like, are we expanding it to like movie directors and stuff too? Because that's a whole other thing as well.
Yeah. But I like the question.
Yeah.
Totally redeemed yourself.
By the way, I did just remember something that I watched, and I'm an idiot because I just watched this last night.
God damn it, Sergio.
What's his name? Plague of Crows, shout out. Showed me that documentary Dealt. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. He told me to watch it.
Oh, okay.
I've been meaning to, but I haven't seen it. He always gets on me about it.
Yeah, he finally sat me down and we watched it. It was good. It's about this magician who's blind, and
spoiler alert.
And he's just like obsessed with card tricks and just being able to, like, I guess, count cards in his head and stuff. But the interesting thing to me about it is just like his obsession with his craft of what he's doing. It's like it's just so beyond most things, and like you kind of get a sense of where that came from. This like, because he doesn't ever want to be thought of as disabled in any way, even though he's like, obviously he needs help getting around.
Even though throw a dodgeball at his face and you'll realize quickly he's got some difficulties in life.
But yeah, he did all this crazy shit. Like he earned a black belt being blind too somehow. And it's just like work ethic and like willpower and drive just counts for so much for
sure.
What people look at as
like grit.
Yeah, it's grit is like great way to sum it up. But yeah,
for sure, it's a large part of success in a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ability to kind of blind everything out of your vision.
Put your blinders on.
There you go. Put your blinders on and just focus on what you really want to achieve. But yeah, that's cool. I've been meaning to watch it. I don't know. I'm horrible. I have like a million things I want to watch, and then I end up watching some fucking rerun or
oh really
some stupid shit on Netflix or some YouTube thing that's like not fucking worth. If I like think about it, it's just like background noise, you know?
Right? Yeah.
So I don't know.
That one's a pretty easy watch, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I should check it out.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched the documentary. No, I'm sorry. But yeah.
Well, all right. Well, those are all the questions.
Hell yeah, we did it. Got anything else to say?
If
you're in New York, go check out Stone Sparrow.
Oh yeah. I'm doing the coaster show up at Nucleus Portland. Almost forgot to mention that.
Portland folks, check it out.
Yeah.
Go. That's always like a show you can buy some cheap art, right?
Yeah, everything is supposed to be priced at $60. So
go get some Sergio coaster shit and put a beer on it.
Yeah.
And send it to him. Be like, this is what I bought it for. Just to put my beer on.
Just to put a ring around the image. Yeah. Well, I did put some wax, cold wax over it as a varnish. So we'll see if that shit actually holds up.
Make sure to get rid of the varnish before you
right.
You do what you do.
But actually, that was a fun little experiment to do those drawings on that thing with. Nice. I was using water-soluble graphite for them, and especially when you add the wax to it, it gives this really sort of ghosty, smoky effect to it.
Ooh, spooky!
Yeah, Halloween's coming up, so had to do it.
Nice.
But yeah, check those out on my @SergioLopez drawings account.
Oh, yeah. And if you're in Denver, Colorado, I got 2 pieces showing in a Ben gallery coming up pretty soon.
Nice.
Keep an eye out for that. And if you're in San Francisco, I have a palette show coming up next week. So you're too late. So go suck it, loser. Or you could see it. I guess the show is still up. So
right.
I guess you could still see it. You're not a loser. I was just kidding. We're friends.
We're being friends the natural way. We tease each other.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it for stuff coming up. Other than that, we got a class that's coming up in a bit, actually.
Oh yeah, that's actually something I've been doing recently. I picked up some private students.
Oh, that's not the right sound effect.
Yeah, they'd probably not appreciate me hitting that button right now. But no, this person reached out to me to do some plein air. They just were like, "Oh, do you ever do one-on-one teaching?" It's like, not really, but if you're up for it, sure.
Right.
And then, so I did a session with them last Monday, and it went all right. So I'm like, oh, for the amount of time I got and how much money I made just from doing that, I am going to try and do more of these. Because fuck doing the frame gig if I can just do this instead.
Hell yeah, get it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm doing.
Hit me up if you guys are interested.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's cool. I might want to talk to you more about that.
All right.
Not about taking the class, but about
setting something up for yourself.
Yeah, seeing how that works. And my shit is, I think it's on Let's Face It. I can't remember the name of the class.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm doing that, and signups have begun, so you can sign up for the courses coming up. The link's in my bio on my Instagram. So I get a percentage for everyone that signs up through that link. So if you're interested, hit that shit. Get me paid. Yeah. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try my hardest to.
Will they finally learn what pencils you use?
No.
They'll use.
I'm supposed to teach a painting.
Okay.
My course is a painting course.
Well, now they know you use cum brushes, so it's fine.
But yeah, I'm gonna take it serious. I'm gonna try to learn how I would teach if I was to teach.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be definitely some sassiness to it.
Yeah.
Some very
some
blunt,
salty language.
some salty language. Some very blunt opinions.
Yeah.
But who wants to fucking sign up for a woo-woo bullshit class? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Oh, you just fucking feel it out, bro.
Right.
So, yeah. Other than that,
I think that wraps it up.
that's been it.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you guys enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm.
If not, fuck off.